Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to Final Trade. There's an argument that I've seen a number of times on YouTube and on forums over the last, say, 6 months or so. And it goes something like this. Over the next, say, 20 to 30 years, the value of Magic, Alpha, Beta, and Unlimited cards and Reserve List cards too will drop a lot. It might drop to zero. It might drop 95% from current prices. And the model that people use to assert this is to compare it to the prices of classic cars and what's happening in the classic car collecting world, investing world. I don't know really what you call that, but in the world of prices of classic cars. And we're talking about cars from the 1950s and 60s and a bit into the 70s. And the thing specifically that's happening there is that the people who grew up around these cars, particularly baby boomers, are in their 70s or more advanced than that now, and they're starting to die at an increasing rate. And as they do, it's being found that their heirs who then own these cars are not that interested in them. There's a lot of issues with owning classic cars, and so they're basically just dumping them on the market, and the market does not have enough demand to absorb all these classic cars, and thus the prices are falling. And it's something that has been seen for several years now, maybe about the last 4 or 5 years. And so this assertion that people make is that the same fate will fall to Alpha, Beta, and Unlimited and Reserve List cards one day for Magic. That essentially all the people who were in high school in the 1990s and have a nostalgic love for those cards will grow old and die, and their heirs who inherit them will not be interested in the cards, and the prices will plummet. And so I think what the people are doing when they make this argument, they're kind of doing the right thing. They're setting up a model, and they're saying, what evidence can I find in the real world of similar kind of assets and the way they're moving? And then how can I draw a conclusion on this other asset based on this similar comparison? So I think their method is good, but I think their conclusions are wrong. And the issue is classic cars, owning, collecting them, investing in them. That sounds weird, but I guess it's no different than investing in boxes of cardboard. Classic cars are quite a bit different than vintage Magic cards. And really the issue comes down to portability and carrying cost. So let's say you own a classic car, you have to have a place to put it, preferably indoors. Depending on how rare and valuable it is, maybe climate controlled. And if you want to enjoy actually driving the car one day a week, then you have to keep it inspected, insured, titled. You have to do maintenance on it. And so there are these ongoing costs to owning a classic car. And so it's very understandable that you find that when the original owner who had a nostalgic connection to that car dies, their younger children are not particularly interested in the car. The difference with Magic cards is, let's say you have a Black Lotus, it's slabbed, and let's say you inherit it one day and you're not interested in it, but you throw it in a drawer and you forget about it for a decade. It really hasn't cost you anything measurable to hold on to that card. You can argue opportunity costs of holding different assets if you had sold the card, but we're not going to get into that today. So the carrying cost is much different. And I'll tell you, I actually own a classic car. When my grandmother died, she left me her 1969 Plymouth Fury 3. I've owned it for almost 20 years. I've never driven it. I'm not interested in it. My dad has kept possession of it at his house since then. He's kind of worked on it and restored it a little bit. He drives it once in a while, but I'm just not interested in the car, sorry. And, I'll probably sell it one day. And the way I view it is, in those old cars, the crumple zone is the human. And so it's understandable to me that younger people who have grown up with very safe cars with lots of amenities that are essentially luxury items just aren't interested in these old cars that are 50, 60, 70 years old at this point. So I think the creation of the argument that Magic cards would one day go the same way is it's an okay model to use, and it's good that people are trying to think what are some analogous assets that we could try to draw conclusions from. But I think specifically choosing classic cars is wrong. I think a better thing to choose is what we'll call pre-war baseball cards. And pre-war baseball cards are things like T206 cards, anything Babe Ruth, old things from prior to World War II. And now, obviously, all the people who used to watch baseball games prior to World War II, they're all dead. And if they liked to collect those cards in that era because they watched the games and they felt a nostalgic connection to those players are dead. Those people who watch the games are dead. And yet those cards still command very high prices, prices that continue to appreciate year over year and show no signs of stopping. And I think the same thing will happen with these old ABU and reserve list Magic cards. Even if Magic were to fail as a game one day, people would still look back and say that was the first biggest mainstream TCG ever. And people would still see collectability and value in those cards in the future. And so I don't think there's any worry that ABU and reserve list cards are ever going to drop 95% in value. They're never going to be worthless. There's no reason to sell them. And if you're fine with just holding them as an asset for the long term, they're a great option. So let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about seeing Pokemon in the background. I didn't want to make you just look at my face the whole time, so I put this up. And give me your comments on this subject in the comments below, and I'll respond to them and let you know. So if you like this kind of thing, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Join me on Final Trade. Thanks a lot.